Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove and I'm joined by the man who picks up the slack whenever I can't record. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. I do what I can, my friend.
Thank you very much for filling in for the last week or so, or finding people to fill in for me. High quality people too.
I mean, none of them. Oh, I guess one had a British accent, but yeah, it bounces out.
So I'm still not home. I'm not in Richmond. I'm in northern Michigan right now. But I do have internet access and an NBC Sports login. So I've seen lots of Premier League and I've got 2 thumbs. So I've got everything you need for thumbs up, thumbs down weekend review.
All right. I'm glad to hear you've got everything you need. Do you also have like all of the surrounding recording accoutrement? Do you have your water ready just in case?
I do. I have, because I'm in Michigan, I have some seltzer water from Maya. Maya, the Kroger of Michigan.
I see. Okay, thank you for that. Otherwise I was just lost in the woods. Thank you for the explanation. Speaking of, are you in the woods right now?
I'm at the edge of a lake. Okay. So there's water in front of me and woods behind me.
It felt relevant given that we had to momentarily pause recording, or like the start of recording, because there was an ambulance going by our office window.
Yeah.
I feel like that won't be an issue for you out where you are.
I mean, hope not, because it'd take them a long time to get here. I don't want to start with Man United and I don't want to start with Wolves because both of our teams lost this weekend.
Yeah.
We both know what happened. We'll get to that later.
I'm still not entirely sure I do know what happened when it comes to United. But yeah, we'll get to it.
I'm sure we'll dig into it. But shall we start with what to me is the biggest clash of the weekend and maybe the most entertaining game of the weekend? It was Chelsea-Arsenal. It finished Chelsea 3, Arsenal 2. I really enjoyed this game, just in a lots of good soccer kind of way. Good soccer, bad defending.
It was a good enough game that my wife and the dogs, to some extent, got into it as well, because I was watching it Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, I guess it was, and they got sucked in and ended up watching the last 30 minutes with me.
I think it's cute that you think your dogs watch soccer.
They do. Piper is a Newcastle fan, and I believe Ellie is Chelsea.
Good morning for Ellie then, right?
Yes, it was. I just remember that's mostly just because one time Piper was watching Newcastle, and then as soon as they conceded, she grunted and curled back up and went to sleep. So that's what I'm saying.
She's like, Rafa Benitez was supposed to stop this.
Yeah, she's all in on Rafa Benitez.
All right, less dogs, less Rafa, more soccer. Chelsea 3, Arsenal 2.
This is exactly what people have tuned up for.
Well, I think we'll get into some tactical stuff later because I think it's a tactically interesting game. But I'm going to start with a big thumbs down to formerly one of my favourite players, Alexandre Lacazette. I'm pretty confident that Chelsea's winning goal in the second half is mostly the fault of Alexandre Lacazette.
I agree with you, with the exception that I'm reserving 10% for the time-traveling abilities of Marcos Alonso, but we'll get to that when we get to it.
I think Lacazette may even have made that possible. Do you want to hear my working theory of Lacazette blame?
Sure.
It's not just the terrible layoff he attempted back to Lucas Torreira, who was under pressure from at least 2 Chelsea players, one of whom was Eden Hazard. So Lacazette gives the ball away, trying to get it to Torreira, right? Lays it back, Hazard intercepts. Then what happens is Lacazette does that thing that looks like you're trying hard, but is actually very selfish. He just chases the ball.
Yeah, and if you'll, this is where I thought you were about to go with it. We have a term for the type of tackle he attempts. It's named in honor of one of our friends. We don't want to name that friend, maybe, so I'm just going to say he also goes for the friend tackle. The unnamed friend tackle. Yes,
which is where you you wave your leg at it, but you don't really tackle.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of put your foot out. You're not really going in for it, but you've done enough that it looks like you've put in something that might qualify as an attempt.
And that's the attempted tackle, the unnamed friend tackle that Lacazette attempts on Eden Hazard when Hazard's down the left and Lacazette is in sort of the right back position, right? So that's the killer moment because Hazard just skips away from him, cuts the ball back to Alonso. Alonso scores the winner, right? But even in the build up to that, I don't remember how many players touched the ball. I think Alonso's one of them. Lacazette is just chasing the ball around and essentially ruining any defensive system Arsenal may have been able to implement, right? No one knows who to pick up because Lacazette just keeps chasing the ball and ruining the entire system. And eventually,
he ruined it then and is ruining it now. Yes.
Yeah, good use of ruse.
Sort of. I think I still tripped over it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So for that reason, in my opinion, this is 90% Lacazette Chelsea's winning goal.
I agree. And for those who are like unfamiliar, basically what Daryl's alluded to is the idea that if you are supposed to be marking a player, but your teammate comes running across to try to get to that player, then you're going to look around for other opportunities. But then if Lacazette abandons that player to go chase somebody else, now suddenly when you had moved over to, provide central cover, suddenly your player out on the wing is now wide open, so you've got to sprint over there. That pulls other people out of position. And even though it might be in a way seen as doing good work because you're running and you're working hard, even that he wasn't running or working that hard, it also still throws everybody else into this kind of sense of chaos. And in that sense of chaos, the opposition can thrive.
Sometimes the most heroic thing you can do is just be part of the team.
Yep.
And not pass the ball to Eden Hazard if he plays for the other team.
Yeah, that also is ideal. But here's why I want to say, do you have any more on Lacazette? Or
No, go ahead. Where are your thumbs going?
My thumb is going to Marcos Alonso, the time-traveling footballer. He does score the third goal, the winning goal. But this man, he has no business playing in 2018. He is...
Why is that?
I can't tell if it's late 70s or early 80s is where he belongs. He's got the feathered hair. He's got short shorts. He's got the long socks. He's rail thin. He needs a headband and a mustache, and he will either be late 70s or early 80s footballer. That's where he belongs, Daryl. So he has clearly come from the past to play in the present, and I think with that in mind, he probably knows the way things are going to be, and he knows where to be to get on the end of passes.
I see. He's come from the past to play in the present. I guess he's seen the future as well.
Yeah,
he's got the Biff Tannen Sports Almanac.
Exactly. And in that almanac, I guess they also had a list of how many times Arsenal would miss chances in this game, because he just said to his teammates, don't worry about marking the guys in the middle of the field who obviously should be scoring. They're going to miss. And they did. They missed 5 chances from inside 12 yards in the center of goal there.
I feel like Alex Iwobi deserves credit for being the only Arsenal player that can score on a cutback in and around the 6-yard box.
I would agree with you, except he then missed one himself.
He did. Oh, so he's 1 for 2. 1 for 2. Well, let's get into some tactical stuff. Shall we talk about what was going on with... I got 2 questions. Why did Arsenal miss so many of those cutback finishes? But also 2, since Chelsea played so well, why did Arsenal manage to create so many of those cutback chances? I'll let you take either part of that question first.
I will fight my inclination to be because they're just not good enough. Though, I don't want to be the old school British commentator. Instead, I will say, I think some of them, if I'm being very generous, I would say some of them were more difficult than they might have seemed. The Mkhitaryan one especially, it bobbles up. I still think you've at least got to put that on frame, but there is a little degree of difficulty there. The other one, I think, which you pointed out to me before we started recording, is that a lot of those cutbacks, they were very driven balls back across goal. And it's not even, I still struggle with that, because I think if you're playing at that level, you should be able to use your instep, get your hips over it, and put the ball on frame, if nothing else. But I still think maybe then what it comes down to is that the players just didn't expect that ball to get across as easily as it did. And if you're sort of hovering at the back post, usually I think you're waiting for maybe a driven ball across the 6 that gets goalkeeper gets a hand to it, it spills free, and you're there to poach that goal. I just seem like Arsenal maybe weren't as ready for those balls to come in, because maybe they were surprised by how easily they were able to play those balls in.
I think those balls also came in very, very, very fast. And I've got some sympathy with the strikers who maybe even don't expect those balls to be there that quickly. And you've just got to sort of quickly try and react in the moment. I think
you were out of your mind.
Why is that? Having empathy for strikers?
Yeah, especially you as the center back. I mean, I was agreeing with you to some extent that it's not as though these are tap-ins from a foot out and they missed 5 of them in a row. But it is still the case that I think
these are coming at you like Pete Sampras served them.
I think that you might be overselling that one a little bit. They're certainly hit, but they're passes on the ground, or mostly on the ground. They can't be moving that fast. And again, if you get yourself into marginally the right shooting form, you'll put that ball on frame at the very least. Okay, well, how about the idea that it was weird that Chelsea allowed so many cutbacks? And
it can't be because Alonso had the Biff Tannen Sports Almanac and he shared it around. I mean, I like that theory. I think that's interesting. We're kind of living in the Biff Tannen Back to the Future Part 2, some of those segments from the movie, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
But I don't believe that Sports Almanac is real. I think it's more about Chelsea's system. And I think we should talk more in a minute about sort of the effectiveness of Chelsea's system and where it works. One of the weaknesses, I think, is that the wingers in Chelsea's system, in this case, Willian and Pedro, are told to come central, to crowd the middle, and to keep Chelsea nice and compact when they press. And I think that sort of exposes the fullbacks because they don't get any help from their wingers.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So especially if you're playing on the break and those wingers have been told go central, then if you're being broken upon, as Arsenal did on several occasions, then suddenly not only is it that those players are going central, not only is it that the fullbacks don't have any help, but now the wingers are going central, the fullbacks don't have any help, and it's in a state of transition. So you're already sort of trying to figure out what you can do on the fly, and that leaves opportunities for the opposition.
So there we go. Chelsea not invincible, but they were good. So I'm going to give a thumbs up to Jorginho for helping Maurizio Sarri implement his system way faster than I expected. I think my prediction for this season was that Chelsea's run of form at the start of the season would be very bad, but it would quickly come good as everyone figured out the system. This looked like a Sarri team that it looked like he'd had 4 months to work with them and not just the few weeks that he did have.
Yes. It looks to me like a team that needed to sack Antonio Conte. Strange as it is, it's weird to say about a player like a coach who won the Premier League not too long ago, but it just seems like everybody is revitalized. I know Willian came out controversially and said, like, I couldn't last another season under Conte. Now I'm ready to play again. A lot of people weren't so thrilled with that, but I think that is part of it, is that this team are sort of suddenly they have new tactics and maybe a slightly more exciting approach, less of a kind of ruthless drill instructor mentality is how it seems like it's being portrayed. So I think with that comes a little bit more excitement and enthusiasm from the players.
Speaking of that system and that style, here's what I really liked. I loved the quick, short passing combined with the occasional switch the field. It was really high tempo, kept the ball moving around. And I'm really confident that the story of this game is Arsenal's semi-coordinated press versus Chelsea's ability to play the ball quickly and like interchange passes and interchange positions. And essentially it's two new coaches, two new systems, and you could just see that one team, Chelsea, Sarri's team, have their passing figured out versus Arsenal's press not quite figured out. And if you have a figured out passing game versus a not figured out pressing game, one team is cutting through the other team and they're on their way to goal.
I don't disagree. I would add, though, and I think it's very important for Arsenal fans to remember, the word I would add is they haven't figured it out yet.
Yes, I would agree with that. It's almost there, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I was having a conversation with an Arsenal supporting friend of mine, and he was very frustrated in the first 30 minutes of this game by basically he was saying, like, I don't see a difference. It still seems like a team that doesn't know how to press. They don't really play cohesive. They try to just do like creative soccer. It doesn't really work out. I agree to some extent why that would be frustrating. But I think if you look at the way they have this incredibly high back line, that certainly leaves room for counterattacks and for breaks from the opposition. But I think that
even for Alvaro Morata to run in behind, I just want to give a shout out to Zito Madu. He noted that, I think he's an Arsenal fan. He said, we got scored on by Spanish Shane Long, which is what he called Alvaro Morata. But just the idea of Morata being able to run in behind Spanish Shane Long and score on you is a testament to maybe that line being too high.
Yeah, well, I think if you don't have any pressure from your attackers, from your front three or front four or five, whatever, then it's too high. But I think, and they didn't, and we can talk more about that. But I just think if you're an Arsenal fan, what I would take solace in is the fact that it seems like the defense has learned what he wants to do, and they're doing what Unai Emery has been teaching them. I think what we've talked about previously is that with new managers, you start to see the signs that the team is clicking and they're figuring out what he wants in the game. That seems to have already happened for Chelsea and Sarri at a very fast rate. Here with Arsenal, I think the defense is getting it. I think the holding midfielders are getting it. I think that front three, front four, however it may be, that's where maybe there's a little bit of a breakdown, a little bit of a lack of understanding, and that causes problems.
All right, can we get into it then? I don't think we need to analyse every single goal, but I think the thing we're talking about with Arsenal's pressing system not quite being there, but almost being there, I think this is the very best example. This is the Alvaro Morata goal. Okay, so here's what I see. A very high Arsenal line with Morata sort of hanging on, I think it's Mustafi in the end, right? Hanging on his shoulder, ready to go. A high line is part of a press, right? The whole team has to press or it doesn't work. I also see Aubameyang doing an incredible job of directing pressure, which is a key job in a team that presses. The centre forward, the striker, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, needs to direct pressure so that his teammates know where the ball is being forced to so that they can pounce on the next pass, right? That's part of a pressing system. What I see in this goal is Aubameyang directs Rudiger out towards Azpilicueta. Alex Iwobi should have seen that coming, but he doesn't, and he stands off. And that's why Azpilicueta has too much time, too many touches. That's why he can easily look up and just play the ball. So it's essentially a direct overball, right? A Total Soccer Show classic. Direct overball for Morata to run onto. But once Alex Iwobi is on the same page as Aubameyang and as his own defence, Azpilicueta doesn't have time to do that. Possibly Arsenal win that ball back instead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think we can talk more about the positives of Aubameyang. I do have to say, though, because it is worth noting, this goal for Alvaro Morata comes about, I believe, like inside of a minute of Aubameyang missing one of those chances that we've talked about previously. And so it is the case where I think a lot of the coverage will be about Aubameyang missing and is he that goal scorer they needed? I think I listened to Football Weekly or maybe the Times this morning, the game rather, and they were talking about like should he have gone to China?
One of those English newspaper podcasts.
Whatever, they got one. But like how there was like talks that he was going to go to China at one point, and maybe like that shows his intent. And in my mind, it's just like, no, if you're, as we've talked about previously, if you're like grading your striker entirely on whether or not he finishes and scores goals, you're missing a lot of the other stuff that's happening off the ball. So he still should have scored, don't get me wrong, but you have moments where he is directing the press, where he is causing problems. And I think we could talk about maybe like how he did that in the lead up to one of Arsenal's goals if we want to. I don't know if you want to get to that now.
I'd love to, because I think it's the exact sort of example of how the Arsenal system can work. This is Arsenal's first goal scored by Mkhitaryan. It's once again Aubameyang. I think he's chasing down Ross Barkley. Aubameyang may have even lost the ball, but he applies pressure to Barkley, directs Barkley to play the ball out to Willian, right? It's sort of the only option he leaves him because of the pressure that Aubameyang is putting on Barkley. Nacho Monreal, the left back, has seen this coming. That's why Monreal is able to step and win that ball from Willian, who usually gets to balls first, right? Because he's on the same page as Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. And so he gets in there, they're away, it ends with the Mkhitaryan goal. So when it works, it really, really works. When it doesn't, you get scored on by the Spanish Shane Long.
Yeah, but I think Arsenal fans maybe have more reason for optimism than it might seem right now. That's my takeaway, although you know, that's easy for me to say, less easy for them to say, sitting 17th currently.
There's more optimism than points. How about that?
Yeah, I think so.
It's just a case of waiting to figure it out. The one thing I think needs figuring out still is the midfield, though. I think in hindsight, if I'm Unai Emery, going up against first Manchester City, and then Chelsea, I would not have gone with Guendouzi and Xhaka as my holding midfielders, and then I think first Aaron Ramsey and then Mesut Ozil as attacking midfielders ahead of them. Because you're essentially sending two men out to play against three centre mids. I think the simple thing Arsenal should have done in these tougher games is go with a trio of Lucas Torreira. And I know it's partly because I'm a big fan of him, but partly because I think he does a fine defensive job. Then like alloy him with Xhaka and with Guendouzi, and then you've got three defensive mids doing that job. It just makes you a lot more solid in the middle and not so easy to play through.
Yeah, I think then maybe the reason why he doesn't do that, though, is once you do that, you're having to get rid of one of your attackers. I'm assuming it's either going to be Iwobi or Mesut Ozil.
Yeah, make a tough decision.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, he's already done that, I would say. He's already made some tough decisions by dropping certain players, bringing certain players in. The fact that he's starting Guendouzi in the first place is a tough decision.
Yeah.
But I think maybe he's trying to implement the system, the 4-2-3-1 system, the way he wants to play it, rather than just being like, oh, you know, we've got these two difficult opponents, let's get rid of a creative attacking player, because then suddenly maybe you're not even playing your system and you're also being defensive. Even if that doesn't work, suddenly it looks like you're kind of bereft of options.
So you're saying like in this way that maybe the Man City defeat and the Chelsea defeat are almost part of the learning curve for the Emery 4-2-3-1, rather than adjusting to each game as you go.
I think so, because I think you could the argument that if you're Unai Emery, you look at those first two games and you think, while it would be nice to win, there's probably not going to be many people screaming for me to be fired for losing to Man City and a rejuvenated Chelsea.
Yeah.
Now maybe that's like hindsight being 2020, knowing what we know about Chelsea at least right now. But I think that maybe is the way he's approaching it. We'll see if that changes. We'll see if Mesut Ozil, for example, doesn't start the next game. Then maybe he agrees more with you than me.
Did not look thrilled to come off, did he?
He did not. He did not.
Anything else on Chelsea-Arsenal before we move on?
No, I think that's about it for me.
Then we should let people know that today's Total Soccer Show is sponsored by SeatGeek. SeatGeek, long-time sponsors of the Total Soccer Show. Do you remember, Taylor, when buying tickets to live events was really difficult and confusing and you didn't get $20 off? I don't, because SeatGeek has sponsored our show for that long.
And also because SeatGeek have made it so wonderful that it's impossible to remember what it was like before.
It's like a pre-app world, right? When you had to do all that. So with the SeatGeek app, you can open it up. You can find events near you or to like a city that you're visiting. You get the list of priced tickets. You also get the traffic light system that tells you this is a good price ticket, this is a bad price ticket, because they aggregate tickets from all over the place. And Taylor, you've looked. What have you found that you might be going to?
Well, I have found that surprisingly, DC United on a bit of a run, Mr. Grove.
Oh, yeah.
Last 5 MLS games, 4 wins, 1 draw. I'm going to knock on wood on that.
Yeah, they're re-Rooninated.
I mean, kind of. They were up for it. The 2-0 win over New England this weekend. They looked like a happy team that was happy to be winning. So I think there's also lots of games, if you're a DC fan, to keep an eye on coming up. Their next 4 games are at the New York Red Bulls on August 26th. Tickets available for $35. Home to the Philadelphia Union on the 29th, $27. Atlanta United coming to the new stadium on September 2nd for $44. And here's one for you, for our Cooligans friends. DC going to NYCFC on September 8th, $19. Tickets available on SeatGeek.
Ooh, in the baseball stadium.
You can make $1.
You can make $1 if you use the $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase with our special discount code. How do people do this, Taylor? How do people get this done?
All our listeners need to do, just download the SeatGeek app and enter the promo code TSS today. That's promo code TSS for $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. SeatGeek, life's an event. We have the tickets.
And the $20 discount. Thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring today's show. We really have heard from so many people who've used SeatGeek with the TSS discount code and given it the thumbs up. Lots and lots of thumbs up for SeatGeek.
Many, many thumbs up. Thus far, not too many thumbs down. So that's good. It's a good ratio to have.
How many thumbs up do you have for Brighton 3, Manchester United 2, Taylor? I'm sorry to do this to you, but I think this is the second most talked about game this weekend, maybe even the first.
Mm-hmm. I have 2. I have thumbs up to Brighton because just as a whole, because last week I was really thinking that they were going to be in the relegation zone, the relegation battle throughout the season. I mean, if they play every game against Man United, they clearly won't be since they've won 2 in a calendar year against them.
Pascal Gross has got the magic.
Apparently.
SeatGeek have got the tickets. Pascal Gross has got the touch. And Glenn Murray has the outside of his foot. That finish for the first goal is something special. I can't believe we doubted Glenn Murray in our preseason preview.
Did we?
I mean, I basically suggested he was getting a little old. I take that all back. I apologize to Glenn Murray and the outside of his foot.
I feel like you've tried to lump we into this equation, whereas it has been beaten out of me the using of old as a pejorative. So I would never do that,
especially for men younger than me.
That too. But I mean, it was not a fluke performance. It was not they sat back and got a goal on a set piece and got a goal on a counterattack. They did get the penalty at the very at the very end of the first half, not the second. But it was absolutely a deserved win for Brighton, who looked for all the world like the team that had spent the money in the summer. And I guess not to say that United did, but it definitely just seemed like Brighton were the one who would be challenging for top 4, not the Red Devils.
Okay, so I'm going to guess that you have a lot to say about Manchester United, because I know you watched the Man United games closer and more intently than any other games.
To be honest, I don't.
Oh, interesting.
And the reason why is because we had a conversation before we started recording in which Daryl kind of pointed out that maybe people didn't just want to hear me get really emotional and angry about Manchester United and maybe would prefer some like analytical analysis.
Yeah,
so with that in mind.
Yeah, I would like your analysis, not your anger. How about that?
You're going to get both, but I'm with you. I understand that you would like more of one than the other.
Anger analysis?
Yeah. Really, like if you want to go that route, my anger analysis mostly has to do with the fact that, once again, I feel like a little bit people are letting Jose Mourinho dictate the conversation.
Oh, really?
And that doesn't necessarily... Go ahead.
I said, oh, really? Why do you think that?
Because this conversation that I've seen a lot of the post-match articles and the way that's been covered is his frustration with the lack of center backs. And the center backs were awful on the day. And if he had gotten the center backs, but then these are two center backs he signed, and shouldn't he be developing? Like, it's all about that. And I think it is an intentional ploy by Mourinho to get away from the fact that who cares about center backs? Like, would they have helped United have any sort of sustained attack? Would they have created chances? Would they have helped keep possession? Maybe. But I think that conversation about the defense alleviates some of the conversation, or alleviates the stress of the conversation about, I still don't think I know much of what United are trying to do, or at least I can't really explain why they're not doing it that successfully.
I'd like to just stick on the centre-backs for a second.
Sure.
Because
see, there we go. You're buying into it, Daryl.
No, but it is. Bailly gives away one of the penalties, right?
Yeah,
which I don't think is so bad. I think he's just trying to clean up a big mistake in the middle, right, where possession is given away. I want to talk about that later. But I do think the first goal, the Glenn Murray goal, the outside of the foot goal, I'm very concerned about what Victor Lindelof was doing there. Because he... Sure. I know that Bailly has to pass Glenn Murray onto Lindelof because Bailly's going over to cover for the cross, right? But then what I see Lindelof do is just essentially go round the back of Lindelof, give him a little tug on the shoulder, then dart in front of him from the blind side. And it just got me thinking that, like, I, as an amateur centre-back, know to not let strikers do that to me. And I just think, I look at Lindelof's skill set and I think, he's good in the air, like good at challenging for headers. He can head things clear. He's very nice with the ball at his feet. I quite like him as a passing out of the back central defender. But just in that sort of being outwitted and outfought when the ball's coming into the box low type situation, I just don't think he's up to standard. And that really worries me for Victor Lindelof.
Well, so the conversation, like if you think about the way he performed with Sweden, I remember him performing quite well. Yeah. And the conversation in the offseason was essentially that what Mourinho wanted was a veteran center back that he could play alongside Bailly or Lindelof or rotate to sort of get them that senior experience and that senior partner who can sort of direct them how to play and kind of coach them up how to play. Yeah. And I think to your point then, if you look at Lindelof, maybe just having that little bit of inexperience, that little bit of naivete, that when that jersey tug happens, he reacts to it as opposed to, yeah, right, nice try. I'm going to body you off and keep position. Yeah. So I think, again,
so you agree with me?
I'm agreeing with you that like that wasn't ideal. I think there's an argument to be made that Andreas Pereira, who is one of the kind of holding midfielders theoretically, should have maybe dropped in when Bailly went wide, and he could have cut out that near post ball. I think there are problems with Bailly having to go out there in the first place because of a lack of effort from elsewhere. So I think like just focusing on Lindelof, while I don't think he had a very good game, would be to like sort of, again, go into that route of like, yeah, it's definitely the center back's fault and not the whole team kind of not understanding what they're supposed to do.
So that's like falling for the Mourinho thing and just scapegoating one Swedish centre back.
Without the key thing being without Mourinho actually saying it. Yeah, at no point did he say Lindelof had a bad game. At no point did he say it's the center back's fault. He said, I'm not going to talk about it because you guys take everything out of context.
We just sort of he just incepted us with the last thing that he happened to say, which was about Lindelof, and then that's all we've got to work with. Yeah. So it sounds like you wanted to talk more about like a systemic failure for this opening goal for Brighton. Because this is when it all falls apart, basically, right? Because then Brighton score again a couple of minutes later while United are still reeling. So what is the systemic failure? You hinted at Bailly having to go out and cover. Like, why is he even over there? Why is Lindelof having to pick up Glenn Murray from Bailly? Why is it all happening?
Okay. So I can give you what I think is the sort of like objective and not objective, but like analytical analysis, and then I can tell you my emotional reaction.
Yeah.
I think it's that this system that they're trying to play right now, number one, I really do have a hard time fully understanding what the system is. Obviously, it's 4-3-3. It's Mourinho, so it's defensive and look to counter. But in the past, it's been these incredibly detailed reports heading into games about all of the expectations of a player. And if the ball goes here, Juan Mata goes here. But if it goes 5 yards to the left, then he drops into this space. And all of them know these assignments and are drilled up to execute that game plan. Okay. You look at what they did today, or excuse me, not today, yesterday. I didn't see any of that. I didn't see any. But
I want to focus on the first goal. Like, how does this apply to Brighton's first goal?
Sure. So, for example, I think Juan Mata gets pulled inside for Brighton's first goal. The ball goes out wide, and he essentially gets nutmegged, I think it is. And after that, I think he doesn't know where he's supposed to be. Juan Mata basically just stays in the same spot after that moment. But then you have what I think Ashley Young on the right. He gets, as a result, because Mata's central, he gets in a 2v1 scenario where he kind of can't overcommit, so he can't put a lot of pressure on. It pulls Eric Bailly out a little bit, and that causes problems too.
I see.
So it feels like one problem leads to a chain reaction, and it doesn't feel like there's anybody there who knows how to step up and cut that problem off at the source and deal with it before it spasms or spirals.
I think I have an understanding, and I think it's that Juan Mata has these specific defensive instructions about where to be dependent on where the ball is, right?
Yeah.
Which is usually, compared to what other wide attacking midfielders are asked to do, I feel like Man United's wide attacking midfielders are asked to come a lot deeper, right? Like we talked about, like maybe one of Chelsea's problems is that their attacking wingers aren't given enough defensive responsibility. You flip this around, it's like Mata's been given too many instructions defensively almost. And it seems like these things are so heavily planned that it almost doesn't take into account the fact that once per game, even a player of the standard of Juan Mata is going to just weirdly kind of whiff and miss the ball and it goes through his legs. And it's almost like that's not baked into the plan of like, what do you do when that happens?
Yeah, but it means shouldn't
you take away his like individual ability to problem solve because you've maybe drilled him too much in what he's supposed to be doing.
I mean, I guess so, but I still think that like even if that one thing goes wrong, then like there should never be a situation in which one thing goes wrong and that means like, well, that's it. Like now they're going to score, you know?
Yeah.
Like we're not the Empire building the Death Star here. Like you got to have contingencies.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like United do. Or, and this is the thing that for me as a fan is more worrying. It feels like maybe they do, and the players just maybe don't care or don't know them well enough to execute them properly. Because it felt also to me like there were moments in this game. The one that stands out, and I'm not just trying to like isolate Paul Pogba, but did you see the one where he passed it just behind a person? Like he passed it out of bounds. Like it was a 5-yard pass. He couldn't complete that. And just those little moments when the whole team stopped responding, it feels like, I think you're right, that maybe they've been overly coached and are thus a little bit too much in their heads.
Yeah.
But it also feels like a team that's overly coached and is tired of being overly coached.
Yeah. All right. I don't really want to get into maybe Mourinho's lost the locker room because I don't know if that's part of it, but I am now a big believer in this idea that they're sort of not overcoached but over-instructed, and you almost rob these players of their sort of individuality and what they might just do naturally. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and like I feel like I'm going to toe that line of losing the locker room by just saying that I think it is the case that when you're playing for a coach like Mourinho and it's working, you feel it working, you see it working, you realize like, oh, he told me to be here, I was there, I cut out this pass, I launched this counterattack, we scored, I'm in. And you buy into the system. When it's not working, that's when that third season meltdown happens. I'm not saying it's third season related. I'm just saying that once you start to have everybody or certain players, it seems, react with, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be here. I'm doing what I want. I don't want to have to run over here. Then it kind of leads to that chain reaction of, and then you see the result.
Okay, I want to tell you another thing I noticed from this game and see what you think about it. I want to give thumbs down to Manchester United's determination to loft slow balls toward the centre of the field. And I'm going to say that Brighton's first goal, the Murray goal, United originally lose possession when I think it is Paul Pogba really like just drifts a slow pass into central midfield for Pereira, and it's immediately picked off by Proper because teams just come after you now, right? Teams press you, teams pressurize you. You don't have time to slowly, leisurely receive a pass in central midfield. So that eventually leads to the Murray goal. And then for the by conceding the penalty, I'm pretty sure, the first goal, Murray goal, Duffy scores soon after when Man United are still sort of dizzy, I think. The penalty kick that's conceded, I'm pretty sure it's De Gea.
Oh, you're right. I confused the two. You're right.
De Gea can't find any options from the goal kick, and he just sort of chips a ball into central midfield. Like, how is he ever thinking that Paul Pogba is going to have time and space to receive a chip?
It's Fred.
Is it Fred? I'm sorry.
It's Fred, which makes it even more unforgivable because he's
less tall.
But it's But yeah, exactly. So he's
Yeah,
trying
like
to
5'7",
settle it with
right?
his chest. He has to jump to settle it with his chest.
And then he gets picked off by Stevens, right? Because there's no way a central midfielder has time and space to control a slow chipped pass into the middle. And that got me thinking, like, is that a Mourinho instruction? Slowly play the ball into central midfield and we'll build from there? Or is it just a general slow pace of play that... the one thing I want to connect it to is that all the other teams we see, they play fast, right? All the top teams, Liverpool play fast, Man City play fast, Arsenal, Chelsea now play fast, Spurs play fast, Man United play slow. And I think 2 of the goals you saw the cost of playing slow.
All right, so it might be that I just listened to the rewatchables talk about Any Given Sunday, but in that movie, Al Pacino, Tony D'Amato, has the, like, it's a game of inches, right? And it's a game of seconds. And that's what it is here. That, say, if that's Man City, if Ederson plays that ball into Fernandinho, I have to believe that it's more of a driven ball, and it's to feet, and then Fernandinho can, like, play it wide. He knows exactly where his, like, right back or right wing back is going to be. He can lay it off one touch. City have played their way out of pressure. But here, David De Gea looks around a little bit. The center backs aren't on. Lindelof is way too wide, so now he has to look central. But in those couple seconds, that gives the Brighton defense, okay, he's now looking into this spot. We're going to step up a little bit. You've taken a couple seconds. You've lost a couple inches. Then he plays that ball in, and he plays it to the chest, a little bit above the chest, where now Fred has to try to settle it in midair. So that slows it down a little bit because it's a chip pass. Now you've lost a few more seconds, a few more inches. Then he doesn't have those runners off the ball. It doesn't feel like quite as pre-planned as it does with other teams.
Yeah.
So now he has to look and see if somebody's there. Whereas Fernandinho, as an example, is just playing it because he knows someone's going to be there. And it's those couple seconds, those couple inches that lead to those problems. And that's makes all the difference in a game.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. And I think that just might be the problem with a Mourinho coach team right now, is they just don't play the ball quickly enough, right? We've seen Chelsea play the ball quickly, like with the Jorginho, Kante, Barkley thing. Even if Barkley was something of a weak link, that ball still zipped about in a way that Arsenal couldn't handle. I don't think Man United are capable of doing that right now, even though you look at Fred could do that, Pogba can do that, even Pereira could do that if they were given license to do so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so it will be very fascinating to see how United respond to this one, because if it feels like more of the same, which right now it does, then it will be more of the same and it will be more erratic performances. And I think that only leads to an erratic Mourinho. So how they kind of address some of the problems and maybe reinvigorate over the next week will be fascinating to see whether or not they're able to do that.
Okay, before we get deep,
can I just say one final thing about this game?
Please,
I just want to add.
Please.
Have you noticed how handsome and charming Zinedine Zidane is? And like, just a wonderful guy. Just throwing that out there. Wonderful man. Wonderful man. Isn't he great, Daryl? Isn't he cool?
I'm not getting involved in your campaign. The only campaign I'm interested in is Wolverhampton Wanderers Premier League campaign.
Oh yeah,
which weirdly delivered this weekend a really good performance away from home at Leicester City. Mm-hmm. And a 2-0 defeat.
Yeah.
And this has me worried. The fact that Wolves could play well, maintain possession, move the ball around, switch the field nicely, create some attacks, press really well. They really pressed Leicester. They had like 3 chances in the first 10 minutes. Raul Jimenez was like running Leicester defenders down, keeping the ball in play, setting up chances. And then Wolves lose with an own goal and a deflected shot. 2-0 to Leicester City. It makes me worry that Wolves may be... Raul Jimenez compressed, but isn't the elite finisher that will take the few chances he gets. And Wolves' defending is not quite good enough to keep them up. This may be me spiraling emotionally, as Wolves now have 1 point from 2 games.
I'll pull you back, my friend,
okay.
Because you have a point at home on the first day against Everton, a team that could very well be top 6, top 8, top 10, what have you, a good team. Leicester City, obviously, won the Premier League, so decent. There's been lots of change there, but it is still Leicester City who play the Leicester City way of direct and aggressive, and it caused lots of problems for Premier League teams.
Except they don't anymore. Not under Claude Puel. They play a much prettier, possession-y kind of game with James Maddison at number 10 running the show. They actually had some really, really nice moments, Leicester City.
But you also have the aggressive running of Jamie Vardy, and I think until you have dealt with Jamie Vardy, you kind of don't know how to deal with Jamie Vardy. And it felt like he was causing problems for Wolverhampton. It felt like Wolves were caught in 2 minds of being very attacking, but then also still like, oh, right, but they've got all these threats. And it felt like they hadn't quite figured that out yet. So I don't think you need to be as like worried as it sounds like you might be, because I think it's worth remembering not remembering my prediction or what I talked about with Leicester, I think it's worth remembering that Leicester, it seems, are a very good team, or at least a good team that has that Premier League experience.
All right. I want to give you a thumbs down from this game, though, which is emblematic of my worries, and it's to Connor Cody. Are you familiar with Connor Cody? I know you're not obviously not as familiar with Wolves as I am. So he was a midfielder who, as of last season, started playing in the middle of a back three for Wolves, right? And he was key to the Wolves style of play in that he was the one starting attacks, spraying the ball around, and getting that passing going, right? But part of being the best team in the EFL Championship is you don't really get tested defensively. And do you remember his inability to close down Richarlison last week for Everton, where he didn't step to him enough and Richarlison just used him as a screen and bent the ball around him and the goalkeeper?
Yes, sir.
So in this game against Leicester, there's the own goal from Matt Doherty takes a deflection off of Connor Cody as it comes in because he kind of mistimes a header and essentially gets the assist on an own goal, an own assist on an own goal. And for the James Maddison goal, it's Connor Cody who steps to James Maddison but just kind of shows him his butt and it bounces off his hips. And even though Maddison's shooting to the left, it deflects off of Connor Cody to the right. Connor Cody has me worried that maybe he isn't a Premier League defender. Maybe him and Lindelof should start a band or something.
If it helps, there's a different Wolves player that had me feeling similarly.
Who's that then?
I would have always gone Doherty, but I'm going to back you and your pronunciation to say that it's Doherty.
I honestly don't know.
Either way, he did have the own goal, but he just had a rough game. He got knocked around a lot. He himself missed one of those early chances.
Yeah, the
close
best chance,
enough
maybe.
to a sitter for me to say it should have been a goal.
Yeah. I mean, he might get signed as an Arsenal striker. It was that bad.
I don't have much to say about Fulham, but I will say this about this game in combination with Fulham is that there were moments in both games when I was like, you are still used to playing championship teams.
Yes.
Where it was just like you think you have another second on the ball or you have a little bit more time or that defender's going to bite on your feint and they do not. And then it sort of is like, oh. And that happened a couple times with Wolves. It happened specifically to Ryan Sessegnon against Tottenham that I remember him bringing it down and just being like, oh, you don't know what to do with it right now. Whereas in the past, you would have been past that defender already and it wouldn't have been a problem.
Yeah, that was interesting, right?
So it's worth remembering that it is still, with all the money they spent, the talent they have, it is still with Wolverhampton. And with Fulham, it applies. But for purposes of this conversation, it's still a team that is new to the Premier League, that is suddenly dealing with that next tier, that top tier opposition. And they haven't even faced top tier. They'll face Man City next week. So I wouldn't worry even about that game. The one that I would keep my eye on if I were you is their next league game after City is West Ham. And that's one where it feels like they should be gelled enough. They should be able to cause problems. If you're struggling and you kind of see those same problems against West Ham as you saw against Leicester, you saw against Everton to some extent, then, Daryl, I think you can be concerned.
Before we move on from Wolves, will you just indulge me in a brief Adama Traore conversation?
Will I?
Are you familiar with Adama Traore?
I am.
So he's if our listeners are not familiar, he is the flying winger. He came through the Barcelona Academy, played for Middlesbrough last season. I think he completed the most take-ons, definitely in the Championship, maybe in all of England. This guy will receive the ball on the wing, he will walk, he will pull off a move, and then he will accelerate away from you, and you will never, ever, ever catch him. There was a very interesting thing happened where Wolves were playing their possession game, move the ball from side to side, try and open you up type thing. The game that Alexis Guerreras was not a fan of, but is the Wolves' signature style of play. Traore came on in the second half, and he was a game changer, but I'm not sure if in a good way or a bad way. Because while everybody else was passing the ball from side to side, whenever Traore got the ball, he did his thing, right? He ran at people and just headed for the end line and then either put in a dangerous cross or put the ball out of play. And I can't tell if this is a great addition for Wolves.
That's a dramatic either or.
Exactly. But I can't tell if this is a great addition for Wolves, right? Because it just gives you something different. Or if it's a guy who's going to ruin the plan every time he gets the ball. Because I definitely saw a couple of times João Moutinho. You're familiar with him, right? He's sort of passing Portuguese midfielder. He's key to the Wolves.
I've seen Wolves before, right? We did a whole preview on them.
Just double checking. Just double checking.
With the guy who started in the Euros.
So, of course, yeah. So, he loves to play possession, right? There's definitely a moment where he played a short ball to Traore, shaped as if to receive it back. Traore took off and beat his man, and you just saw Moutinho be like, I guess we're not doing the thing we normally do. And I think Traore just ran the ball out of bounds eventually. So I'm really curious to see how Wolves use this undoubted weapon in Adama Traore. Do they use him as something that gives them an extra edge, or something that sort of ruins the thing they were trying to do?
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. Is it's not necessarily for me like, does he come in and ruin the game plan because he is direct in his dribbling and trying to get those crosses in? It's more about, is that what he is being asked to do? If he's being told, look, we need a penetrative dribbler who's going to alleviate pressure, go at defenses, cause problems, maybe get some set pieces, maybe get some dangerous crosses. So when he goes in, we're going to bring in, as they did, we're going to bring in, say, Bonatini at halftime as well. We're going to get another presence in the box. Now you're going to dribble. You're going to look for those crosses or those cutbacks. We're going to have another striker in there. It didn't work on the day, and I think of the two strikers for Wolves, I would be more worried about Bonatini and his lack of confidence, it seems. But it did feel like when they brought in Traore, there was a plan for how to use him effectively, even if it wasn't effective on the day.
All right, so we'll keep an eye on Wolves, and they'll continue to get more time on the Total Soccer Show. I got to tell you, it excites me, the fact that Wolves are just in our roundup because they're a Premier League team.
I'm glad you're excited. I'm glad we ended on a happy note for you.
So we have more Premier League to talk about. We also have some Major League Soccer and maybe even a little trip to Italy. But today's show is sponsored by Simple Contacts. You should know Simple Contacts if you've been listening to the Total Soccer Show. It is the most convenient way to renew your contact lens prescription and reorder your brand of contacts from anywhere in minutes. You might even say it's vision care for the 21st century. So I've tried this.
I would say that, Daryl.
You would say that? I've tried this. Taylor's wife has tried this. Taylor has not tried this because he doesn't wear contacts. I
don't, and I'm not sure I'll ever be able to because contacts terrify me.
They do? Are you scared of putting your finger in your eye?
Yep, pretty much.
I'll tell you this, if it's that or play soccer while blind, you very quickly get over putting your finger in your eye.
I can't hear you over the sound of me putting on my Edgar Davids sports specs, rec specs. No, I think it will be a thing that I will have to learn one day because, vision and such. Mm-hmm. And I plan to, but for now, I'm happy to let you and my wife use Simple Contacts. And I would say that you all, it seems, are very happy to use Simple Contacts.
Yep. So if you've got a current prescription, you can just use the Simple Contacts app or the website to reorder your brand of contacts. They come quickly. They tell you when they're coming. Everybody's happy. They will renew your prescription. You don't have to go and sort of visit the optician to get that done. It's a much, much cheaper way to do it. Even better, if your prescription has expired, they will renew it by using the vision test, the online or via the app vision test, which only cost $20. Again, if you go to see your optometrist, your I've forgotten the word, optometrist or optician, ophthalmologist. There's all kinds of different words. The eye people. If you go and see the eye people, it can cost $100, $200. The vision test, you see the digital eye people, and it's only $20.
There we go. I like this. I like this especially because, not to go too circuitous, but Seinfeld had the joke once about like when you're a little kid and on Halloween you put on the Superman costume and in your mind you're Superman, but in reality you look like Superman wearing ill-fitting pajamas. I'm realizing now that I am not Edgar Davids and that me wearing rec specs won't look intimidating and awesome. It will look like me wearing rec specs. So I do like the idea of Simple Contacts, and I do appreciate how easy they will make it one day when I do have to wear contacts.
Well, if you or our listeners would like to get $20 off at Simple Contacts, here's what you do. You go to simplecontacts.com/TSS20. That's the letters TSS and the number 20. So simplecontacts.com/TSS20, and you can get $20 off. You can also enter the code TSS20 at checkout when you check out at simplecontacts.com. Thank you for sponsoring today's show, Simple Contacts. Also worth letting people know, Simple Contacts is not a replacement for your periodic full eye health exam, but it is a replacement for going to get your prescription renewed, especially if you don't want to go and sit in the office and do that.
Yeah, there we go.
So thank you to Simple Contacts for sponsoring today's show. You got any more Premier League thumbs up, thumbs down, Taylor?
I have many, my friend. Let's go to Man City 6, Huddersfield 1. Sorry to our friend Pavlos for that one. I want to say thumbs down to Man City for just being this happy, good time, fun hour, which is what they seem to be. Everyone just seems to love it. And that makes me sad. But I will say thumbs up to David Silva. He had the beautiful free kick goal. Absolutely wonderful goal. But it's also worth remembering that his son was there. His son came out with him for the when they did the introductions. His son is very, very much premature, so had to miss a lot of the season or parts of last season. David Silva did to fly home and be with his wife and deal with the issues there. So to see his son there, to see his son not necessarily celebrating since it's still an infant, but there when he scored was definitely a good reminder of the things that happen off the ball that are just as important sometimes.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, 6-1 to Manchester City. I believe a Sergio Aguero hat-trick. I'll be honest, I haven't seen this full game. I just watched the highlights. Before I watched the highlights, I looked at the lineup and I saw that Guardiola had gone all out with the two-striker system. Yeah, I feel like whenever he thinks this team is there for the taking, you're going to see that 3-1-4-2 shape, and you're going to see Aguero and Gabriel Jesus and all the scary wingers and attackers coming at you, like David Silva, and then you're in trouble. And it didn't take too long, 20 minutes or so, for Ederson to just take a goal kick straight up the field and Aguero to run onto the end of it. I think they just terrified Huddersfield enough that Aguero could just get himself in behind.
That's such a good ball. That's such a good ball from Ederson and such a good finish from Aguero at a time when he could have, similar to last week, I think he could have found other options if he wanted to, but I think just backed himself correctly on the occasion for that goal.
It ends up with a chip, right?
Yeah. And I would say, a hat trick to Sergio Aguero, very good attacking play. The player who, once again, I found myself drawn to and I'm enjoying because I'm trying to figure out what to make of him remains Benjamin Mendy. And I'm going to say right now, thumbs down to me for doubting him.
So what did he do better this week?
I mean, his attacking play was as good as last week. I would say even better than last week, specifically because his passing was so much more on point. It was so much sharper, so much more direct when it needed to be, but it wasn't just him sort of playing a pass to play a pass. It felt like he was sort of aware that he had done some loose passes, some soft passes last week. I didn't see nearly as much of that, if any of that, this week, but I did see the incisive runs, the direct runs, some great combinations down the side. I think he still ended up getting an assist or two, or at the very least facilitated 2 goals.
He had one cutback assist.
And I think the other one that I thought was really interesting was we talked about Guardiola's quote about maybe how he needs less time on social media.
Yeah.
Mendy?
Yeah, I remember that.
After this game, he said, quote, "Every time I'm with my phone, I am on Instagram or Twitter, and now I need to be careful. When I am at the training center, the CFA, I don't use my phone, but I instead listen to the manager." End quote. The implication there, I'm guessing, is that maybe there were times previously when he was not listening and was instead staring at his phone, and he got yelled at by Guardiola.
Oh no! So like in a team meeting or something?
Yeah.
Oh no!
That's my guess. That's my guess.
But this is a good example of the good little tweaks that Guardiola's going to have throughout the season, right?
Yeah.
After last week's win, there's still maybe a thing to work on, and it seems like it's already been fixed. And Mendy's phone use and pass completion percentages are both more within normal parameters.
Yeah. City, I would say, within their normal parameters, destroying opposition. And it's especially Man City-esque because it did take a little while for them to, I guess, in relative terms, for it to be 6-1. It wasn't like they scored in the second minute, they scored in the 90th minute, they scored often in between. It did take a little bit of time, and then suddenly it was just okay, they found the rhythm, and now it's game on.
Yeah.
And that does seem like the way it's going to be, even without Kevin De Bruyne, who I would say angrily was watching this from the stands. He didn't look thrilled that without him, his team still destroyed another Premier League team.
I think that's just his face. I'm going to move over to another game and give a thumbs up, a hearty thumbs up to Morgan Schneiderlin for correct use of the no-look pass in Everton's 2-1 win over Southampton.
Let's talk about it.
If you haven't seen it, this is the Theo Walcott goal. It's a free kick from just outside the area. Leighton Baines is standing over it, and it's a bit of master set piece theatre, in my opinion. It looks like it's going to be just a cross from Leighton Baines, right? Instead, Morgan Schneiderlin pulls away from the pack, comes to receive the ball, looks away, looks the opposite direction, but plays the ball in behind to get Theo Walcott in on goal. I love a no-look pass when it's actually used to misdirect the opposition as opposed to just showing off. So thumbs up to Morgan Schneiderlin for the correct use of the no-look pass.
And I would say, to your point about it being master set piece theater, is that it's also worth noting that this play was clearly drilled enough that Morgan Schneiderlin had executed it enough that he knew how to do it without even looking at the ball.
Yes.
And so it feels like even then, it was that little bit of disguise was a learned and earned behavior, as opposed to why not just try this and see what happens. It felt like I know exactly what I'm doing here. I know exactly how to disguise it, and I'm going to throw it off further by looking away and then sort of spinning away at the same time.
Yeah, learned and earned. I like it. Mm-hmm. All right, so that's Everton 2, Southampton 1. What else you got, Taylor? Any other thumbs from around the league?
Certainly. Let's go back. I mentioned it briefly, but Tottenham's 3-1 victory over Fulham.
Yeah.
I want to say Daryl, you have half of your prediction point.
Yep.
Because you said Kane would score in August, but that maybe he would still miss some time.
Finally, Harry Kane will score in August, and he did in the 3-1 win over Fulham with a lovely cutback, a classic Harry Kane cutback on Callum Chambers. Lovely stuff from Harry Kane.
Yep. And I'm going to say, so thumbs up to him. We'll see if you get your prediction point. I'm going to guess Tottenham fans do not want you to. They're happy for you just to stay with half a point.
I don't want it either. I want Harry Kane to score goals forever in every type of white shirt he plays in.
Mm-hmm. But much like Tottenham's opponents oftentimes last season, and it seems this season, I think in my season preview, I'm going to go back to it one more time to say I think I was maybe a little bit too focused on Harry Kane. Because I also want to say from this game, thumbs up to the unnamed threats. More players that we didn't talk about as being attacking threats. Lucas Moura opened the scoring. Kieran Trippier with the lovely free kick goal. And even Eric Lamella's really great direct run. He holds off players. He finds Harry Kane. He sets Harry Kane up to score that third goal.
Can we chat on that for a second? I especially enjoyed, I forgot how much I enjoyed watching Eric Lamella run at people because he has that early Ronaldo uprightness where he's, for one, he's not looking down at the ball, which is a skill, right? But he just has this weird gliding thing where he runs through people. It's a fascinating and almost majestic thing to watch. It's like watching a wildlife documentary.
I like that we're going to do a couple different it's like watchings because, yes, I'm with you on that. And then watching Harry Kane score this goal for me. Every now and then there are those moments where it's not to say that Harry Kane wasn't world class in my opinion before, but it's just players will have these moments when you're like, oh, right. They're very, very good. And for this goal for Harry Kane, it reminds me of watching, if you ever watch video of Mike Tyson in his prime training and just how fast he is, but how this punch is a feint to set up this punch, which is also a feint to set up this punch. And just how fast he does that, it blows your mind. And you watch Harry Kane for this goal, and he, first of all, has that striker's instinct to know exactly where he is in relation to the goal and relation to the goalkeeper and the defender in front of him. But just so many little half feints and moves that just start sending the defender the wrong way. So then he does a little touch that sends the defender the wrong way. And it's just those moments of he completely set him up for the uppercut, which was that little finish. But he just, all of those things happening in maybe 1 second of play is fascinating and amazing and a good reminder of just how good Harry Kane is.
Everybody has a plan until Harry Kane punches them in the mouth.
There you go.
Moving around the league, I want to say thumbs up to Callum Wilson.
I have a hard time imagining Harry Kane ever punching anybody, he'd do
it with a soccer ball.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Thumbs up to Callum Wilson for
goal of the weekend.
Coming out on top in a 1v5 for Bournemouth versus West Ham. It was a great ball from Steve Cook. Steve Cook later scores the winner, but he plays the ball into Callum Wilson. It really is. Wilson looks for a second I'm just going to hold this ball up and see who joins me because I've got 5 West Ham defenders. And then you almost slowly... I feel like if he had a transparent skull, you could watch his brain wheels turn of him just suddenly decide...
His brain wheels?
But you know what I'm saying? I'm saying he's an android. But I'm saying you can almost watch him decide, I'm not just going to hold this up. I might try running at these guys. And then he's like, oh, actually, I'm away from these guys. Oh, actually, I'm in on goal. Oh, I'm Callum Wilson goal.
I still have the recurring theme of you vaguely referencing Westworld, despite not enjoying Westworld.
This is steampunk Westworld.
Yeah. All right. There we go. But 2, I love this goal. I loved everything about this goal because it felt like I knew it was coming because I didn't watch this game live. I watched the highlights of this one.
Yeah.
And I knew it was coming. I knew it was going to be a goal from Callum Wilson. And when I saw him get the ball, I was sort of like, no, it can't be here. And then he just keeps going and going and going. I mean, it was, I don't think we've ever said this before, but I'm going to say it now and maybe hate myself. But it was Messi-esque that he rides challenges. He gets around players. It's those quick little right foot, left foot shift with the ball that gets around a player. But still has the calmness and poise to finish. That was my favorite goal from the weekend.
1v5, never tell him the odds. Never tell him the odds.
I also want to say while I was just criticizing our previews, I do want to add I am very happy that you and I spent a good amount of time discussing David Brooks for Bournemouth and that transfer because I kept writing down Brooks again. Who was Brooks again? And then when I went back and looked, I was like, oh, right, we did a whole bunch of previews on him because he looks like he's a 12-year-old, but he plays like he is a proven Premier League veteran, even though he is not.
And for those who don't know, he is a Welsh winger that Bournemouth signed from, I believe, Sheffield United. He's 2021, something like that. Really a guy to keep an eye on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You got any more Premier League thumbs? I've run out of Premier League thumbs. I'm thumbless.
I have run out of Premier League thumbs as well.
Shall we move on to Major League Soccer? I have a quick... I didn't watch any Major League Soccer full matches, unfortunately, this weekend. I've had a lot going on. But
I know where you're heading. And
quite a few things did catch my attention. So let's say 27 thumbs up to Josef Martinez.
Wow.
In Atlanta's 3-1 win over the Columbus Crew, Josef Martinez scored his 27th goal of the regular season. That ties him for the regular season record with Roy Lassiter, Chris Wondolowski, Bradley Wright-Phillips for the regular season record, and it's only August. He has, 9 more games to break the record, and he definitely will.
He definitely will. I'm going to say, as a DC United fan, hopefully not in that game I mentioned, but there's a decent chance he does. I'll also say, if I'm an Atlanta United fan, I'm very happy for this. I feel like maybe they're just focused on this season and whatever may come. But there is a part of me that would be sort of okay, maybe we don't play him for a while or change his name and just let's not let anybody know just how good he is, because while teams are definitely looking at Atlanta, teams from non-MLS teams, that is, they're definitely looking at Atlanta for Almiron. I think there's been a decent interest in Martinez. I don't see how there isn't a very good offer for him after this season.
While we're talking about this, I think this seems like part of the Atlanta United business model, right? Mm-hmm. You spend a respectable amount on talented players in their early 20s, or in Barco's case, teens, but I think Almiron and Martinez's case, early 20s. Mm-hmm. You have them sort of light it up in Major League Soccer, set records, as Martinez almost undoubtedly will. And then you sell them on for a profit, and then you reinvest that money in the next generation of young, talented, probably South American players. So the interesting part for me will be, after they sell Martinez and Almiron, who's up next, right? Who do they invest that money in next? That'll be a really exciting talent hunt.
I don't disagree, but I'm kind of surprised to hear you say that, because I think more so than me on a lot of occasions, are all about playing the kids, playing the youngsters. Let's bring through the next academy player. So I'm assuming then you're saying you would be more okay with them giving some minutes to young academy players, but then reinvesting that money in the star players they'll need to continue to perform at the level that they're performing at.
I mean, in my ideal world, it would be Andrew Carlton that takes over, right? And some other ATL United 2 attackers taking over. But I think in the real world, they'll probably invest some money in some assets that they can sell on.
All right. Yeah. My final very important note on Josef Martinez is just that I don't always love it, but I love the low socks with him. The low socks is a good look for Josef Martinez.
You mean like the English style?
No, I think they're even lower than the English style.
He's not
I think that they barely cover.
You can't see his shin guards, can you?
No, but you can barely, I think they barely cover his shins.
I see.
He wears those guards low and he wears his socks low on top of them.
So he's all about minimalism with his cards and his socks.
I would say not, given the rest of his aesthetic. Yeah, but sure, why not?
We haven't actually talked about the goal. So I'd like to, if you haven't seen the goal, or if you have seen the goal, here's a bit of analysis of it. Jonathan Mensah, defender for Columbus Crew, makes an unwise pass. It is an unwise pass, especially against Atlanta United, especially with Julian Gressel lurking somewhat. He intercepts, takes the ball, gives it to Martinez, and then makes that run to the right that draws enough defenders over there that Martinez can get down that left channel. Is that a fair description of what happened to Mr. Rockwell?
Absolutely, it was. And it was a lovely goal, a lovely finish. He's reached that point with Martinez where it's just expected, right? He's in front of the goal, he's going to find a way. Same thing with when we saw him play at the All-Star game against Juventus, where it was just sort of, there's a scrum in the box. I imagine at some point he's going to get some body part to it and put it in the back of the net, and that's what he does.
Speaking of the Schneiderlin no-look type thing, this is a little different, but I've watched the close-up version of this, and Martinez is definitely looking at Gressel the whole time and almost shaping his body towards Gressel. He's really sending the message to all those Columbus defenders. I'm definitely passing to Julian Gressel, definitely. Just wait for the pass. And then there's a second where he, similar to Harry Kane, makes the turn to the left in one quick fluid motion, and it's just too much for Jonathan Mensah to handle.
Ish.
Yeah, indeed.
That's what I have to say about that. Do you have more Major League Soccer stuff to say things about?
The other thing I have to say about is thumbs up to Tyler Adams, number 6. Now, I did not see all of the Vancouver New York Red Bulls 2-2 draw, but I did check in on the Scuffed Twitter feed, which everyone interested in the fortunes of young Americans should follow Scuffed on Twitter. Adam on Scuffed hosted a Tyler Adams Gifapalooza. So I essentially watched this game through the medium of just Tyler Adams highlights, thanks to Scuffed's Gifapalooza. Here's what Tyler Adams did. Playing like number, he moves all over the field, right? Like the various positions he ends up playing for New York Red Bulls. He really did play as the deepest midfielder in the Red Bulls pressing system, which meant he was stopping a lot of attacks if anyone got through that first wave. There's a lot of Tyler Adams stopping Bayern-bound Alphonso Davies in his path. And then there's also a lot of Tyler Adams recycling and starting attacks from deep. Best of all, though, there was an MLS assist with a great half-volley pass to put Bradley Wright-Phillips down the wing for Roya's first goal, and a great free kick cross for an actual assist to Roya for the second goal. If you watch the whole Gifapalooza, not a perfect performance. Couple of like times when he could have switched field, but he didn't. But a really encouraging, enjoyable Tyler Adams Gifapalooza performance.
So not to like blow this out of proportion, but I'm assuming that means Tyler Adams starting and captaining the U.S. national team at the next game?
Oh, forever.
Okay, cool. All right, cool. I'm glad we're there.
When are we going to get that roster? The first game is what, September 11th, I want to say? Or is it Brazil first, September 7th? It might be. That roster might be coming soon.
It might be. I think we'll probably get it maybe like a week before would be my guess.
Yeah.
But, still trying to figure out
standard.
A lot of other issues are U.S. soccer. So we'll see when we get it.
Anything else from you, Taylor?
We've got some more European stuff from me. I've also got which American won the weekend. Where do you want to go first?
First, I just want to correct the record in case anyone's wondering. Definitely September 7th versus Brazil, September 11th versus Mexico for the US men's national team. You can't prove that. I might have just remembered it. Which American won the week, and maybe even a call-up to that September roster?
Should we do that now, or do you want my two things from Serie A just to finish it out?
I want to do this now.
Okay, let's do it.
That's why I said let's do it now.
All right, I think you've got three contenders, and then you've got one winner. And the winner for me is Weston McKennie.
I thought he didn't play till today.
FC. No, you're thinking of Dortmund.
Oh, okay.
Weston McKennie and Schalke 2-0 win over FC Schweinfurt in the DFB Pokal. He played the full 90. He led that side. He ran that midfield. It was everything we wanted to see from Weston McKennie, at least according to the match report I read and the highlights I saw.
Interesting. All right, so here's my dream. Weston McKennie and Tyler Adams reunited in central midfield for the United States in September.
That's so good.
Maybe with the addition of Michael Bradley. Did you see the Jeff Carlisle quote?
I sure did. And I saw your tweet about it.
Essentially, for those who haven't seen, the quote was that Bradley said he's been in conversations with Dave Sarachan about maybe being called up for those September friendlies, but ultimately the decision is Sarachan's, so we don't know yet. But the reason I'm into this, and if you disagree, please don't email or tweet me, because here's my reason, is whatever you think about the long-term prospects of Michael Bradley, it would be nice to get the McKennie and Adams roster fused with what looks like a senior roster, so that the whole thing feels like here's our very best roster and these guys are on it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Instead of here's a teenage roster, here's our very best roster with McKennie and Adams and the more experienced players.
I think I agree with you for two reasons. Because one, it's sort of like it gets you away from the feeling of like, oh, we're in a holding pattern until we figure everything out. It doesn't feel then, because the second thing would then be that it doesn't feel like there's the young team and the senior team and we're just waiting to call that senior team back in. It feels like suddenly like, oh no, the young team is the senior team and the senior team is to some extent the young team.
Yeah.
And you kind of blend them and you get that actual team playing into meaningful friendlies.
I'm ready to move on to that. That's what September should be. I'm sure we'll talk more in detail about this the closer it gets, right? I was just excited to maybe get started.
I'm still reeling from the fact that I just called them meaningful friendlies. I don't feel good about that at all.
Sorry, I stopped you. You were one player into your 3-player list. So Weston McKennie's a contender.
I don't want to take them all. Do you want to say who you've got winning it?
Well, I didn't know McKennie played, so he would have been mine. But I'm going to go with Andrea Novakovic, the very tall American striker who played in the Eredivisie for Fortuna Sittard and scored in a 2-1 defeat to PSV. But this is high-quality opposition that Novakovic has a goal against now.
Indeed. And if you'll permit me, I'm going to jump straight to it. Doug Chan is scouting Andrea Novakovic.
Yes.
He sent us a report. Novakovic started and scored in Fortuna Sittard's home opener against PSV. Andrea received a header in the box following a forced turnover in PSV's half. With his back to goal, he set up with his chest, turned, beat 2 defenders, and equalized with a thumping finish. PSV would ultimately scored the game winner in stoppage time, but our boy has officially entered this season's Eredivisie Golden Boot race.
Yeah, he's got one. But I really like this goal. He uses his strength. Zero. He uses his strength and a bit of that close control that's like, it's not Harry Kane level yet, but, it's somewhere on the Harry Kane spectrum.
No, it's yes, I agree with everything you just said. And then it's also the case that this is a youngster who's playing in the Eerste Divisie, the second division last season, so that he comes in, starts the home opener in the Eredivisie and scores.
Yep.
It is a very strong sign, in my opinion.
Got one question for you. Did that Doug Chan scouting report have any cookies included with it?
It did not. Those were given to us already.
Is that only for live shows?
Yes, only for live shows.
Okay. Sadly. I guess you can send digital cookies, but just not the kind you want, right?
I mean, yeah, that makes sense. The other two, I had Novakovic on my list. The other two would be Jonathan Amon, returned and scored as a halftime sub in a 2-0 win over Vejl.
Yep.
I have no idea how to pronounce that.
For FC
and
Nordsjælland?
Bobby Wood, my friend. 25 minutes in Hanover's 6-0 win over Karlsruhe in the DFB Pokal. He came on and got the 5th assist. So Bobby Wood getting some minutes and getting his name on the score sheet. Maybe not the way he would have liked, but at least it's there.
I've seen this assist. It's really simple, layback for someone to shoot, but it all counts, right?
Yeah, exactly. I don't care. He gets an assist. That's all that matters.
So is that all of your contenders?
Yes.
And were you saying that Weston McKennie was the clear winner, or have you yet to announce your victor?
I think Weston McKennie is the clear winner for me.
Okay.
Just because I still have that kind of, when you look around the Premier League this weekend, I believe I'm correct in saying that no Americans were involved in the Premier League. So you kind of, you still have those players who are on the fringe, but maybe they're going to get minutes here and there. Yeah. And so to see, it seems like Weston McKennie really is becoming that regular starter player for Schalke that we really want him to be. It's just nice to know that we've got a couple of those out there. Christian Pulisic would be the other. I believe he and Dortmund are playing maybe at time of recording.
Yeah, so time recording, Dortmund are playing in the Cup against Gruner Firth, I think, so maybe a Julian Green appearance. And Liverpool Crystal Palace, obviously we didn't talk about that because it hasn't happened yet. It kicks off in exactly 16 minutes at time of recording. Final one that we didn't mention, but I remember seeing is Lyndon Gooch got himself an assist for Sunderland, but it's all the way down in League One, so it's devalued somewhat.
I just checked the lineups. Both Julian Green and Christian Pulisic are starting in that game.
There we go. Yeah, Green versus Pulisic.
I'm sure that's how it will be billed in Germany, yes.
Should we talk Cristiano Ronaldo? Let's do it. Let's close the review with Cristiano Ronaldo. So I have to say, I haven't seen any of this, but I know you've seen highlights. So I'm hoping you'll tell me all about Cristiano Ronaldo's Serie A debut for Juventus. How many hat-tricks did he score, Taylor?
He scored 0 hat tricks. He also scored 0 goals. He did not score on his debut, not for lack of trying, which is why I'm going to say thumbs up to Stefano Sorrento, 39-year-old goalkeeper for Chievo. He denied Ronaldo on multiple occasions. Even at times when it felt like the stage was set. There was one late in the game when the score was tied 2-2. Juve obviously winning 3-2 in the end, but it was 2-2 at this point, and it was a free kick right from the edge of the box. It just felt for all the world like it was going to be Ronaldo scoring. The narrative continues, and instead it was a great full-stretch save from Sorrento to deny Ronaldo and to frustrate Ronaldo throughout. But I will say, with that in mind, thumbs up to the scouting network because Federico Bernardeschi comes on, gets that winner, the 3-2 winner in the 92nd minute. And I watched this. You know that I watched celebrations. Yeah. I watched to see what Ronaldo did because it's basically Alexandro drives into the box, kind of passes it diagonally across in the middle, and it's finished by Bernardeschi, who did a really good job to backpedal to get space. But Ronaldo is behind Bernardeschi and was there kind of for the tap-in as well. I think from my angle, that's what it looked like. And I was just wondering if we would see angry Ronaldo sulking because he hadn't scored. We did not. We saw him celebrate with the team in a way that he didn't used to with Madrid. And it felt like it was an intentional decision here to be like, see, I'm part of the team. And not necessarily, I'm part of the team, but I'm also mad I didn't score.
Well, if anyone heard your Graham Hunter interview, they might have some insight as to why sometimes that happened at Real Madrid, hey?
Yep.
I would also add that the fact that Ronaldo didn't score, I don't think, from my vantage point, having not seen the game, it sounds like it's not a big deal because if he had lots of chances, Ronaldo's eventually going to start scoring. So I think the goals will flow soon enough in Serie A for Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is also the case that he started up top in a 4-2-3-1. He was the central striker. But it felt like so many people were so focused on him that Juve kept having opportunities from a variety of different players popping up in different spaces because the defense was very much focused on not letting Ronaldo score.
Yeah. Rest of Europe, moving on. I know La Liga kicked off again this weekend. I know Barcelona won. I know Real Madrid won. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see any of these highlights. Did you manage to see them either?
I did not.
Okay, so our apologies to La Liga fans. We didn't get to see those games, but we will be keeping an eye on what's going on at Barcelona and Madrid because, especially after listening to your Graham Hunter interview, I'm very interested in how things play out in La Liga this season.
And Graham Hunter and I, we didn't even get into talking about the other teams in La Liga. I think Atleti are going to be very strong and cause lots of problems for like a Barcelona team that are maybe figuring some stuff out, for a Madrid team that are obviously figuring some things out. It feels like we could have a 3-horse race, or it also feels like we might have a 1-horse race. So I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on La Liga. I was sad to see that Shaq Moore was sent out on loan, I think, to the 3rd or 4th division.
Yes, it was a team I didn't recognize, which concerned me quite a lot.
Same thing. So no La Liga minutes for Shaq Moore this season, it seems.
Okay. All right, Taylor, are you ready to move on to the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network?
I will be after I tell you my final thing, which was Lazio's 2-1 loss at home to Napoli, season opener. Congratulations to Carlo Ancelotti. And I just want to say, shut up, Lazio fans. That's what I have to say to you.
Why? What's up?
The Curva Nord fans, the Ultras, they held a banner that, amongst other things, said, "In the trenches, we do not allow women, wives, girlfriends, so we invite them to position themselves from the 10th row and back." Basically saying that women weren't allowed in the first 10 rows of that section. Whatever. If you want to hang that on tradition, you can hang that on tradition. Still not a great look. Still not a great look at all for Lazio to sort of come out and say women not allowed in this section.
Is Curva Nord Italian for misogyny?
I think Lazio have that history. So, yeah, I think so.
Aye. All right.
Yeah. So I'm just going to say thumbs down
fans.
to Lazio for beginning the season with that tifo, and sort of to their front office for coming out and saying the sort of cop out like, "Oh, there's lots of fans. We can't really, tell everybody how to live their lives." It's like, well, you are the guys who run the club, so yeah, you kind of.
On that note, are you ready to move on to the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network?
No, I've got 5 more things. Yes, I am.
Who's up first, Taylor? Which talented young player do our listeners have their eyes on this week?
Stephen Kopech is scouting Kenny Saif, the 24-year-old American midfielder for Anderlecht. Kenny Saif has been absent from Anderlecht's first 3 wins of the season due to injury. However, the club recently tweeted that he should be fit in about a week, so we will hopefully be seeing him back in action for both club and country very soon.
Dan Landau is scouting Gio Reyna, the 15-year-old American midfielder for NYCFC for now. Dan says, according to Goal.com, Reyna is set to move to Borussia Dortmund, the Borussia Dortmund. After securing a Portuguese passport and winning the U19 Development Academy Championships with NYCFC, Reyna has decided to move to Germany after his 16th birthday. So it sounds like Portuguese passport gives him EU citizenship, means he can move to Germany at 16. His father, Claudio Reyna, of course, made it clear that this was Gio's decision. Coincidentally, Claudio also started his career in Germany at Bayer Leverkusen.
All right. So well done, Gio. Well done, Claudio.
For more on that, listen to this past week's Top Draw Soccer Show, where Travis and I get into this Gio Reyna transfer.
I like it. Katie Sutton scouting Katie Cousins, 21-year-old American midfielder for the University of Tennessee. Katie Cousins was named to the Top Draw Soccer First Team Best 11 as a midfielder and is on the Missouri Athletic Club the MAC. There we go. Mac Herman Trophy preseason watch list. The Mac Herman Award is given each year to the most outstanding male and female college players of the year.
We've seen it. We saw the Mac Herman Trophy at the United Soccer Coaches headquarters, right?
We did indeed. We saw many familiar names.
We saw Farouk Qureshi's name on there.
My favorite name on there.
Is it right? Zebu A is scouting Lucero Cuevas, the 22-year-old Mexican striker for Club America. Zebu says Lucero Cuevas came back from injury for America's match in Tijuana. She unleashed a diabolical Cruyff nutmeg to set up the only goal in a 1-0 win. I haven't seen this video. I'm going to find this video. A diabolical Cruyff nutmeg.
I was going to say, credit to Zebu. If it's a Cruyff nutmeg, it has to be diabolical. Josh Duller, scouting Blake Bodley, 20-year-old American midfielder for the Washington Huskies, the University of Washington, I believe. Blake started preseason in terrific form, getting an assist and a goal from the penalty spot in an exhibition game. Every college preview that Josh has seen mentioned, there's a comma there. Every college preview that Josh has seen mentioned Blake being the best player on the team and someone to look out for to make the best 11 for the NCAA this season.
Okay, eyes on Blake Bodley. Brett Walker is scouting Tom Davies, a 20-year-old English midfielder for Everton. Davies was on the bench but did not play in the season opener against Wolves. Brett finds this distressing given that after 2 full seasons with the first team, Tom has yet to stake a claim on a single position that can be clearly identified as his. With Marco Silva recently suggesting that Bernard will be competing for the number 10 spot with Gylfi Sigurdsson and Andre Gomes presumably coming in to cover or supplant Morgan Schneiderlin and or Idris Agana Gay, it remains unclear just where Davies fits in. That said, Tom Davies did play in this weekend's 2-1 win over Southampton. Came on as a first-half sub for Morgan Schneiderlin. I think Tom Davies will be fine. He's too good not to be in that team.
All right. Famous last words. Ben Tondera scouting Mason Holgate, 21-year-old English center back for Everton. After dealing with Achilles tendonitis throughout most of preseason, Holgate was subbed on in Everton's season opener after Jagielka was sent off. He then got the start in that win that we just talked about against Southampton.
Yeah, he's somehow keeping out Kurt Zouma, but then he's got to hold off Yerry Mina when Yerry Mina gets ready to go. So best of luck to Mason Holgate.
Enjoy the bench.
Todd Brannan is scouting Cameron Carter-Vickers, the 20-year-old American defender for Spurs. Todd says CCV is still out with a groin injury. There hasn't been any indication as to the severity of the injury nor his timeline for return. This is bad, in my opinion, that this is Daryl speaking, not Todd, because that sort of championship loan window is, 11 days till it closes? So he needs to get fit and figure out what he's doing. Otherwise, he's going to be maybe stuck in limbo for the rest of 2018.
Pretty much ditto what you just said for the next scouting report. We had 2 positive ones from Everton. I'm going to say 2 not so positive ones from Tottenham. John Adams,
you thought the Tom Davies one was positive?
I mean, he got to play this weekend.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
He was like second choice to Schneiderlin. So yeah, I think so.
All right.
John Adams, not that one, scouting Shayon Harrison, 21-year-old English striker for Tottenham. Shayon Harrison has been getting minutes for Tottenham's Premier League 2 side, and John can't tell if that's because they want him there for the season or because they're putting him in the shop window to get him a loan move before that window closes.
Manny Alcantara is scouting Junior Firpo, the 22-year-old Dominican left-back for Real Betis. Manny says the Dominican Republic has released their 23-man roster for their first CONCACAF League of Nations / Gold Cup qualifying match against Bonaire. That's a neighborhood in Richmond. In September.
I know, I'm kind of confused. I meant to Google what Bonaire was, but I'll hold off for now.
So it's Bonaire, if anyone's confused. I'm assuming it's a small nation in CONCACAF.
What if it is just the neighborhood outside of Richmond?
That would be very... I'd move fast so I could play international soccer. Junior Firpo was a notable absence on the Dominican Republic roster. The belief is that he turned down an invitation in the hopes of being called up to the Spanish national team. Junior made one appearance in a friendly for the Dominican U23s, but has lived in Spain since the age of 7 and has dual citizenship and has become a naturalised Spanish citizen. Oh, interesting decision time for Junior Firpo.
And what was the name of the country that they're playing against, the Dominican Republic?
Bonaire.
Oh, Bonaire, yeah, of course. They're an island in the Leeward Antilles in the Caribbean Sea. Obviously, Daryl, you knew that, didn't you?
I did know that. I just didn't want to embarrass you.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Dan Martini scouting Manuel Locatelli. There's no way I'm pronouncing that one right. 20-year-old Italian midfielder on loan at Sassuolo from Milan. After weeks of indicating that Locatelli wasn't for sale, Milan sent the youngster on a season-long loan to Sassuolo for €2 million with a mandatory €12 million purchase fee and no buyback clause. That's telling.
That means the structure of the deal. We don't want him back.
There we go. The structure of the deal shows that one or both sides, likely Locatelli based on his Insta goodbye post, were pushing for this move.
Locatelli is a talented player. I'm really surprised that Milan would let him go, but I also haven't tracked him too closely for the last couple of years. So we'll see what happens at Sassuolo.
Dan has, and Dan's on it.
Jeffrey Amelin is scouting Patrick Bamford, the 24-year-old English striker for Leeds. Jeffrey says, after losing in the Championship playoffs with Middlesbrough last season, Patrick Bamford moved to Leeds, a mid-table Championship side. He's gotten a few minutes thus far, but isn't a guaranteed starter as of yet. I feel like Jeffrey's underselling Leeds a bit because they are now coached by Marcelo Bielsa and are maybe the most exciting team in the Championship.
Yeah. I feel like we'll see if that continues on. Bielsa has that reputation, even if Alexis Guerreros doesn't want to acknowledge it. I also want to say...
He's great for half a season, right?
Yes. Isn't a guaranteed starter as of yet is pretty much the Patrick Bamford story.
The optimistic version of it.
Yeah, good point. And also, Daryl, just I don't want to be too pedantic, but it's actually Middlesbrough. I just want you to know that.
Please continue with the scouting reports.
Robert Newman scouting Mason Mount, 19-year-old English midfielder on loan at Derby County from Chelsea. Mount has scored again. Mount scored a fantastic one-time goal in Derby's 2-0 win in the first round of the Carabao Cup over Oldham Athletic. He looked confident throughout as he went the full 90 for the third consecutive match.
The future of England is bright. Todd Ito is scouting Takafusa Kubo, the 17-year-old Japanese attacker on loan at Yokohama F. Marinos from FC Tokyo. Todd says Kubo has been loaned to Yokohama F. Marinos for the remainder of the season. FC Tokyo are currently near the top of the table, which wasn't expected, but might also explain their hesitation in playing Kubo regularly. He has been sent to Yokohama, who are currently in 14th place, just 1 point above the relegation zone, and have lost 4 of their last 5. Thank you to everybody for all of today's scouting reports. We appreciate each and every one of them. If you would like to join the Scouting Network, it's totalsoccershow.com/join. If you're waiting on your player, I did a lot of scouting assignment over the past few days. If you're waiting on your player, please email me, Daryl, D-A-R-Y-L, at totalsoccershow.com. If you would like to be a talent spotter, which is where you don't actually scout a player, but you just add to a list of players that should be scouted, also please email me, DARYL, at totalsoccershow.com. If you've already signed up, haven't received a player but don't really want one, but would prefer to be a talent spotter, email me, let me know. I will share the document with you. That sound good to you, Taylor?
That sounds good to me, Daryl.
All right, so once again, it's totalsoccershow.com/join. All that remains to say is, Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening. If we're honest, we don't know the plan for the rest of the week, do we, Taylor?
No, but we know that part of the plan is to avoid toads at all cost.
That is true. Yeah, some toads are poisonous to dogs is a thing I found out last night. Nothing actually happened, just a near miss between a dog and a toad that had me worried. But all is fine. In
the war between dogs and toads, I'm on Team Dog.
You're on Team Dog, but toads have the venom. Toads have the venom.
This is true. This is true. And the alliance with frogs, obviously.
They do. I don't know about frog-toad relations. I'm not sure if they're friendly.
I believe there was a band once called Frog and Toad Are Friends, and that'll do it for me. Which might be a reference to a book that I can't remember, and now I'm mad at myself for. There we go.
All right. Well, there will be more Total Soccer Show later this week. Even when we don't know what it's going to be, there's always more show to come. So
Watership Down?
What?
I think it's Watership Down. I might be wrong.
The rabbit book. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
The rabbit book. Exactly.
All right, but I'm definitely closing the show now, Taylor. So I'm going to say goodbye to you. Goodbye to our listeners. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you again soon.